I went to a park and left inspired and gassy.
Let's talk about that.
Good mythical morning.
Thanks for joining us today. Thanks for making us part of your daily routine. It brightens our day to know that we brighten your day. It's like a match lighting a flame, which then gets out of control. You have to stomp it, so you have to stomp it out before your personal belongings catch.
It's a good analogy.
I'll figure out what it means later.
All right. I have a family. You have a family. There are weekends. We hang out with our families on the weekend. Here in California,
Gotta be dads. Best dad evers.
You try to come up with a winning idea for what to do as a family on the weekend.
And you call it that. Kids, I have a winning idea.
Yeah, that's right. They come to me and say, Dad, what's your winning idea today?
For this weekend.
And this was a couple weekends ago, and it was Sunday afternoon. And I said, and I came up with it the day before. I said, listen, guys, we're going to go to the Will Rogers Historic Park over there in Pacific Palisades. I've heard about this place. We go there.
But I haven't been in this park, so I'm interested to hear the details.
Well, I'm going to tell you all about it.
Tell me all about it.
It's going to be riveting.
Tell us all about it.
And
Link in the description to directions to get there.
So we go to Will Rogers Historic Park, and the first thing you have to do, because this is California, you have to pay at least $10 just to go through the threshold. So $12. And I'm like, well, hold on now. What do I get for this $12? And the ranger says, you get access to everything. You get a tour, a free tour of the homestead. It's not really a homestead. It's just like a vacation home that Will Rogers had. And they're playing polo right now. Polo?
Now,
what?
I'm interested in polo, but can I pause and kind of clarify one thing? That probably nobody knows who this guy Will Rogers is.
Well, that's what I'm going to get to. I'm going to tell you all about him because that's what was life-changing for me. I'm not joking about that part. So we get there, and literally, they're playing polo. We get out, and they're announcing, and they're like, it's Malibu versus the Pacific Palisades polo match.
These are like two rich neighborhoods.
I'm like, this is as bougie as you can get. You know, I've got, you're not familiar with the term bougie?
I don't know how to answer that.
Okay.
Does it make me cool if I know what it is? Because I can act like I know what it means.
Okay, this is like high class, like...
Rich people riding on horseback, hitting golf balls with a stick.
Not to mention Malibu versus the Palisades. I mean, this is like as pretentious as you can possibly get.
Pretentious, rich
But I'm loving every minute of it because I've never seen a polo match. The field is 300 yards long.
Really?
Yes.
Well, horses are huge.
I mean, that's 3 football fields. I mean, you can barely see the horses, but they're horses, so they're big. Big horses. They're running into each other. The hand-eye coordination. Kids are incredible. They're loving it. I'm a great dad. Winning idea. Then I'm like, kids, the tour of the home is starting. And they're like, not really going to be into that, Dad. But I'm like, but this is where we're going to learn about this great man, Will Rogers, that was so great that he had a park where there's polo happening. So we get there, and first of all, everyone on the tour is about to die. I'm just gonna be honest with it. They're elderly folks.
They're all in hover round?
I mean, well, no, one lady was in a thing, and then she had to get out, and she had to sit down a lot. I mean, nothing against old people. I love them. I'm gonna be one. You know,
you aspire to that.
I aspire to be an old person. But clearly we were misfits. My wife and I were by far the youngest adults there. But then we had these children, and everyone was kind of looking at the children like, come on now. And
what a stupid idea bringing kids here. This non-winning idea for that dad.
And the tour guy, who is also very old.
Tour guy?
The tour guy, who is also a tour guide.
Yeah.
I was giving you his gender at the same time.
Okay.
Was like, okay.
I'll be your tour guide.
It was like, first of all, no backpacks. Who's the only guy that's got a backpack on?
The winner.
The winning dad. The winning dad has to take his backpack off. Okay. What, you think I'm going to steal like an heirloom from the Will Rogers home?
Well, you could camp. You might camp in there.
Okay. So I set that down outside. You know, it's the Palisades. Nobody's going to steal anything. And so then and then he's like, oh, and please, no walking on the original Navajo rugs. Navajo rug, you remember that song? Yeah. You couldn't walk on the Navajo rugs. And he says, and I know that's exactly where the kids will want to go.
And then
I'm the only one with kids in a backpack.
Stink eye to the guy with the kids.
Right. Yeah, it's like, keep your hands, keep your children in hand, son. And then he says, make sure the kids stay on the rubber mats that keep you off of the Navajo rugs and the exquisite hardwoods and all these things. I'm like, I got it, buddy. I go in there. He begins to talk about Will Rogers, and the kids immediately are just like looking right at that rug that they've been told not to get on, of course.
It looks so
Shepherd is like
walkable.
sticking his foot out towards it, and I'm like, come here, son, you know. They're all looking at it. Then he begins to talk about Will Rogers, and this is where the life transformation began to take place.
For you?
For me personally. I quit watching the kids. They were running all over the rug. I completely just lost my place in life. Here's the deal. Will Rogers, you know him as the guy who was in the cowboy movies back in the old days.
Like a roper, right?
Yeah, like in the
he did
30s.
roping tricks.
He was so much more than that, Link. This guy was a roper in Oklahoma. He was doing his thing, and then he got involved in this vaudeville act, you know, like the traveling vaudeville acts that they used to do. And what happened is
Like a stage act.
he was funny, and he would say funny things, and he had this like political commentary that he would be doing at the same time. And everyone was like, you got to come see this Will Rogers guy perform. He became really popular, and then he was at Madison Square Garden one time, and a steer got loose. And this steer's running all over the place, going up into the crowd.
What was it, a rodeo?
I don't know what it was. It was a place where there was a steer. That's a bull that has been... And so the bull is running around. He's still got enough gusto to get up into the crowd, and he's like beginning to trample people. And Will Rogers comes out and ropes him in front of everyone. Ropes this thing, gets into the New York Times and all these papers, immediately becomes a movie star, starts going around. He has this syndicated newspaper column.
What about the two guys in the steer suit? Don't they get any credit?
It was a real steer, son.
Publicity stunt,
Real
man.
steer. This guy becomes a wild movie star all through the Depression, gets this newspaper column where he's writing about the struggles of the common man. He becomes a voice for the common man. He begins traveling all across the world. He becomes a friend to all these dignitaries and the presidents at the time. And people started coming to this house that he built in the Palisades, which is the one that we were in, coming and playing polo with him. Walt Disney played polo with him all the time and fell off his horse so many times that his spine started to get arthritic, and he became known as the meanest man in Hollywood. I learned all this stuff on the tour.
And it all starts because if you know how to use a rope, good things happen.
But what I'm thinking is that this guy's inspirational. I start thinking about my life, and I'm like, I sit around and watch reality television like Amish Mafia. I watch a television show that's about Amish people who are like in a gang, and I spend time doing this. My life is wasting, and this guy's out there roping and writing and being in movies and doing all this stuff, speaking on behalf of the common man.
But what about gas? What are you talking about gas?
The last thing I learned about Will Rogers is that he used to sit out on his porch and cook beans. And eat them all day long. He would just sit out there and cook these beans. And I saw it in this little
kettle. Really?
And they said, you know what? I was like, you know what? I like beans. I'm a lot like this guy, maybe. I can't rope. I don't know anything about it.
Maybe.
But I really like beans. Without even prompting, the day after we got back, my wife made a meal and she had a side of beans. I started eating those beans and I said to myself, I really like beans. Really like beans. I had no idea how much I actually like beans. My point of application here is that I'm going to be one step closer to being like Will Rogers, and I'm going to really get into beans. I bet you there's a Bean of the Month club, and I actually found something. It's called Beans for a Year. I'm going to get 6 pounds of beans delivered to me every quarter for a full year, and I'm going to begin cooking them at my house. You can come over. We'll have beans together.
Never have I ever been in a more face-palmable moment.
Totally serious about this. I feel inspired, and I feel like...
Oh, yeah. Me too, buddy.
No, I feel like if we start with the easy things, like eating beans together, then the other things, like being a person that can change the world, will come later.
You know what time it is.
I'm Hattie from Washington State. Let's spin the wheel of mythicality.
You're not inspired?
Oh, I'm happy for you. I'll put it that way.
When these beans come, are you going to eat them with me?
I like certain beans. I like peas a lot.
A pea is not a bean. You're on the Titanic. I'll be Rose. You be Jack. How does she hold her arms?
Like that. Yeah.
Oh, Jack. That picture you painted.
King of the world.
That picture you took.
I feel like a king of the world.
I want to talk about that picture that we made together.
Yeah, it's a little awkward. I don't want to talk about that.
It was so indecent.
Just say king of the world. Or is that me? Am I supposed to say that? king of the world.
And I'm the queen of the world.
Let's talk some more about that Amish Mafia thing.
I love the Amish. I love the Amish.
And the Amish Mafia?
I do not like the Amish Mafia. Because if you're gonna be Amish, be Amish. If you're gonna eat beans, get beans for a year.